Hey, movement makers, welcome to the PBL Movement podcast, where we help you lead with integrity, vision, and inspiration so that you can create a PBL movement worth fighting for. When I started PBL school, we didn't have a roadmap. So Magnify Learning has spent the last decade creating a PBL movement roadmap that you can customize directly for your school. Today, the very first episode of the year in 2024, of course, we're talking about goals. We had some goal setting episodes last year, so hopefully you're already set up, but if you're not, I just want to reiterate how important goals can be. And as we move into 2024, our podcast can take a bit of a shift for you movement makers, and we're going to move more towards the inspirational side. Now, if you want to know how to do project-based learning, that's our jam. We live PBL day in, day out. I wrote a book on it. We're writing other books about it that are coming out as we speak. We're writing one on coaching, on leadership, on the 6 A's. These books are moving out there. So we have all the geekiness that you need to bring PBL to your school. But do you have the inspiration? Have you set the goals? Are you fired up enough to create a movement? I think that's a different idea. If you are, we've got design days that help you create a 3-year plan that brings clarity. Clarity brings confidence, which we'll probably talk about today as we talk about goals as well. But what I really want to get into your head while you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube is that you need to be an inspired leader, because inspired leaders inspire others. And one way we do that is we set very clear goals. Large, as Jim Collins would say, these BHAG goals, big, hairy, audacious goals, these huge goals. And other people are asking well, how would you do that? That doesn't seem possible. And you're just literally asking, how do I do that? I see that goal. I see that we're going to transform our school. We're going to transform our staff into a staff that's completely inspired. We're going to transform our students into learners who are empowered, doing real world work out in the community. So how do I do that? Not how is it possible? You get it. You just see the big goal and you're I could do that. We could do that. Now, how do we do it? Well, one great way is setting goals. So one of the things we're going to do as we move forward with the podcast, we're going to have these solo episodes where it's you and me talking through a leadership idea. And when I do that, I want to bring in other experts. So today I've got Brian Tracy. He's not going to come on the podcast, but we're going to look at his book called Goals. So when we look at his book, let me give you a couple quotes. It's going to start with this: success is goals, all else is commentary. So again, if you don't have written down goals, you need to stop and create goals. Well, you could probably listen to this to get the inspiration to write them down. After this, if you aren't fired up to write down your goals, I have failed. But I think I'm going to get you so fired up that you will write down your goals. He says, all successful people are intensely goal-oriented. They know what they want. They are focused single-mindedly on achieving it every single day. What is the main goal? Where are you taking yourself? Where are you taking your school? Where are you taking your staff? You need to know this very clearly so that they can follow you. So how do you do that? Brian Tracy says if he could take all of his talks, all of his books, and really just condense it down to 5 minutes, here's what he would say. Number 1, write down your goals. Number 2, make plans to achieve them. Number 3, work on your plans every single day. Sounds simple enough, doesn't it? But how many of us have not done it? And some of you, if you're anything like me, you're just well, I'm going to make the work happen. I know the right work. I'm going to do it. But what if you need other people to follow you to achieve your goal? And if you're achieving a worthwhile goal that's going to change lives, change communities, change schools, then you are going to need other people. You cannot do it yourself. You're not going to be able to pull everybody along. You can't work hard enough. There are not enough hours in the day for you to be able to do that. So it's really these 3 simple steps. Write down your goals, make plans to achieve them, work on your plans every single day. And if you're like me, as a visionary leader, it's well, I've got so many ideas, so many goals, where do I start? That's the whole point, my friend. The whole point is you have to be able to write them down to make them clear enough for other people to follow. So let's see what else Brian Tracy said. Now, he breaks this down into 21 different chapters, gets into a lot of detail. So if at the end of this, you're like, yes, but I need some help, go grab Brian Tracy's book, Goals. So Here's what he says about the other side of the spectrum. Unsuccessful people always wonder whether or not a particular goal is possible. High achievers like you, on the other hand, ask only the question, how? Then they work to find ways to turn their visions and goals into realities. And I mentioned that earlier, but the point here is that your goal is that important. Like, you know you can do the work. Whatever you set your mind to, you're going to make it happen. But what is that specific goal, and how will you know that you've achieved it? You have to be able to trust yourself. This comes from Brian Tracy, not just from me. It says, self-trust is the foundation of greatness. Self-trust comes from listening to your intuition, to your still small voice within. Men and women begin to become great when they begin to listen to their inner voices and absolutely trust that they're being guided by a higher power each step of the way. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust your intuition. That gut feeling, you're like, is that enough? Do I need more research? Like, research is great. I love research. I want to use best practices when we're using PBL, bringing it to schools, classrooms. But you've got to trust yourself. You're the leader. This is why you are there, right? So trust yourself. If you don't, then up your skills, right? Up your skill levels in those places where you don't trust yourself. So when you get in the game, you're completely trusting yourself.
Do you have your staff in the PBL Movement online community yet? It's such a good move. As a principal, as a leader in your building, a movement maker, your staff's looking to you to say, hey, what's our vision? Where are we going in the next 3 years? And then the next thing they do, after they hear your words, which they should, it's part of your job, then they say, well, where are the resources that we're going to need to make this thing happen? And when you get them into the PBL Movement online community, they have all the resources they need. They've got on-demand resources they can go and get on their own. They can learn from courses, webinars, they can learn from coaching opportunities. They also have a live, vibrant community where they can ask questions. And all this is happening while you're doing what you do, right? So you don't have to be providing every single professional development opportunity for them. For the cost of 1 day of a conference, they get an entire year of support. So don't be the last one in, right? Get your staff in the PBL Movement online community and support them on their PBL journey, and start that today.
The greatest question of goal setting. Now, here's where I think Brian Tracy's book excels. And I've read a ton of other goal setting books. There are a lot of great ones out there. I really like John Acuff's book, All It Takes Is a Goal. He's got a podcast by the same name. My friend and mentor, Dan Miller's 48 Days to the Work You Love. He talks about goal setting. There's a lot of books out there. Here's what Brian Tracy comes down to. Here's the question. I'll give it to you right away. I'm not going to make you wait for this one. What do I really want to do with my life? What do I really want to do with my life? And it's this guiding question that you as a leader need to be able to answer so that you can get to the work that needs to be done. What do you want to do? Do you want to transform a school so that you can transform kids' lives? Or you say, well, if I just transform one kid's life, that would be worth it. Can we agree that that sounds good in theory, but that's not really true for you? If I said, hey, one of your kids did really well, so you're good, just stop. Would you be okay with that? Like, no, like, you're a movement maker. We're talking about a movement, not just one act. So what is it that you really want? Like, separate that out, because you don't want to just change one life. You want to change a whole bunch of lives. You want to change the lives of your staff. You want to change the lives of your learners. You want to transform your community. You're a movement maker. So let's start answering that question. Now, here's another aspect in Brian Tracy's book that goes along with this great question. He says, my favorite word in goal setting and in success is clarity. And this is where I think we might miss it. Say, I want our school to be better. Well, what does that mean? Right? If one kid goes from a B to an A, is it better and you're done? Like, now you need to be very clear. Like, when you bring clarity, you bring power. When you bring clarity, your staff can join you in your vision and this movement that you're creating. So you've got to bring clarity to your goal setting. There's a direct relationship between the level of clarity that you have about who you are and what you want and virtually everything you accomplish in life. So you're going to create goals, clear goals, measurable goals, and don't get too caught up in the SMART goal aspect, but it's got to be something you're fired up about, passionate about. Like, yes, like, I want to go after that. That's big. I'm for that. That's a movement. Now you're getting close to your goal, but now it needs to be clear enough that other people can follow. Then you're going to set up some clear steps to get there. And then you're going to do those things every single day. And that's how you get closer. And what needs to happen, this is why the clarity is so important, is that it almost puts blinders on you. Where somebody says, well, what about this other thing? I heard that works. You're like, nope, I'm doing this thing. This is my goal. Somebody says, well, you could also do some consulting. That's true. You can do some consulting. Can I just tell you, like, your consulting gigs, they'll come as you do great work. Like, people will just say, hey, can you come help me? Now, if you're towards the end of your career and you want to transition, that's fine. I can help you with that. If you want, it's a different conversation, though. But sometimes we get so hung up on, well, there's this other thing, that we miss our single clear goal. That's what you should be working on every single day. And if it's outside of that, you just say no to it. And you don't have to be rude about it. You just say, well, that doesn't line up with my goal for today. So, or even this year or the next 5 years. So that's not something I'm interested in. I'm sure it's a great product, but I don't need you to walk me through that. I don't need your free demo on this new piece of tech. Like, it doesn't fit with what I want to do. And that's okay because you have a goal. Brian Tracy again, determine the price you will have to pay in additional work, additional time, and commitment to achieve your goal, and then get busy paying the price. If you wanted to be an average leader of an average school or below average school, you probably wouldn't be reading this podcast or listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube. You definitely aren't going to check out Brian Tracy's book. You're a movement maker. Movement makers are going to pay the price to achieve their goal. So count the cost. Count the cost. Like, put it down. What are you going to need? There may be some extra time. And I'm not saying burnout, but I'm saying count the cost. Is there an initial time where you're going to have to do some additional work? Are you going to have to bring in an outside expert to do this? Are you going to need additional funds? Like, once you have a clear goal and you have a clear path to get there, and you're working on it single-handedly every single day or with your team, but every single day, now you go to central office and say, here's my goal, here's my plan, I need an additional $40,000 to do this, how can you help me? And they say, oh, well, that's a clear goal, I like the outcomes, and they go and find that money. Like, that's how that works. When you go and say, hey, I don't have enough money, I need more, there's no clarity to that. People can't see how it betters the district, and you're likely going to hear no from that. But if you have a clear goal and a clear plan, it's a whole different ballgame. Goals with clarity change things. The next thing on working on it every single day actually is going to tie right into a book that I have right here on my desk. And that's going to be Self-Discipline, also by Brian Tracy. So great little tie-in for us. If you're on YouTube, I'm going to show you the book right now. If you're listening on the podcast, Brian Tracy, The Power of Self-Discipline. And right on the cover, it just says no excuses. And it's got this big kind of no sign through it. And I love it. He goes through in this book on self-discipline. It's funny because it's just no excuses over and over again each chapter. But he does it in all these different areas: success, character, responsibility, work, leadership, business, sales, physical fitness. Guess what he says? No excuses. Go work out. Right? How do I get to work on time? No excuses. Get up. Go do what you need to do. No excuses. It's about self-discipline. Well, it comes up in this book on goals because you're not going to achieve your goals if you don't have self-discipline. The single most important quality for success is self-discipline. Self-discipline means that you have the ability within yourself, based on your strength of character and willpower, to do what you should do, when you should do it, and whether you feel like it or not. Which is actually ties right into my favorite definition of integrity. Doing what you say you will do when you say you will do it. Well, guess what? As movement makers, as movers and shakers, people that have vision and then go achieve those things, when you put a goal down with clarity, and sometimes this is why you have trouble writing it down so clearly, is you're committing to it because you have integrity. You're like, I don't know if I can really write down a 3-year plan to completely moving to project-based learning and being completely student-centered. I don't know if I can pull that off. Well, write it down and let your integrity push you in that direction. Your self-discipline's got to kick in. You're going to make those things happen. Persist until you succeed is the name of that last chapter. So how do you set this goal? Let me give you an example for Magnify Learning. We've just launched the PBL Movement online community. It's a place where any educator who's using PBL, whether you're brand new or you've been doing it as a veteran, can go and interact with this online community. It's got on-demand courses. It's got webinars. It's got a Facebook community where you can interact and ask questions. Literally, there is a launch section where you're brand new. You can build, you can launch, or you can innovate. So we have these different levels. And we've just opened it up to the public. And the goal is to have 1,000 members. And I write it down 10 times every single day in my notebook, in my journal. I carry a coin in my pocket. And every time I touch it, I have 1,000 members in our community. And that's my goal. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. I joined several communities to learn how to create communities, which is a little meta, right? And everybody in there says, well, Ryan, you can't do that. Like, that's not how it works. You build slowly. And okay, but I set the goal of 1,000 members. Now, how do I get there? Like, you can tell me I can't do it, or you can help me get there. And you just start to brainstorm all the different ways you can do this. And actually, in Brian Tracy's book, he calls it a mindstorm. Mindstorming. You put at the top, how do I get 1,000 members in the PBL Movement online community? And you just start putting down ideas of how you do that. And that's what I've done. And right now, how many members do we have? We've got 20. I've got 20 members. We're going to get to 1,000 by the end of 2024. Now, I've got several schools that are signed up to put a couple hundred people in there already. So I can see it. I can see individuals coming in. I can see schools coming in. We're supporting them every single day with new content. We're supporting them with live feedback. I'm in there. Our coaches are in there. It's not like this online community that you're not a part of, or you're a part of, and like you ask a question, you just hear crickets. It's not that. It's totally different. It's creating a PBL movement. It's part of it. So how do I not get discouraged? 20 people in there, going to 1,000. Look at that gap. Well, I know this podcast started with 1 download. Like, I watched it, right? Like, I watched it pop up, and 20 downloads, 30 downloads. Well, now we've got 50,000 downloads. Whoa, it's like top 5% of all podcasts that are out there. I can see the growth. I know the work that goes into it. I have the self-discipline to do this every single day. We have a YouTube channel, started with 1 view, right? And we watched it grow through the PBL Simplified series. We have PBL Simplified for teachers, PBL Simplified for leaders. We started to grow those things. Now it's got 42,000 views. It started with 1. Like, I've seen that process. Some people in their business, they might not say, hey, I'm looking for 1,000 members. I've only got 20. And then invite people in, but I know the process. So I just authentically put it out there. There's 20 people in there right now. You know what that means? That if you're 21, you are going to get an amazingly customized experience because I'm in there, our coaches are in there. Like, whatever you want, we're going to create. Like, if you want a webinar and community partners, okay, next Wednesday, we're going to do a webinar with community partners. You can be a part of it and ask questions, or you can ask questions now. We'll send you the replay. Like, whatever you want, you get. So I know that we were going to overserve the first 100 people in there. So I'm not worried about that. And then I know as we grow, we're going to create more tools, more processes and structures and get better at all those things. So we're going to serve the back end of that. The last 500 to 1,000 people are going to have a great experience too. We're going to take them right through this PBL movement roadmap so that they grow in their PBL expertise and confidence in the classroom, wherever they're at, whether they're a rookie or a veteran. Like, I can see that. So as you set these very specific goals and then make them public, now your integrity kicks in. Because if you're listening to this, you're a movement maker. You have integrity. When you say things, you do them when you say you're going to do them. Well, set your goals. Be bold. Be audacious. Be clear. Don't let yourself wiggle out of it and say, well, I'm going to work out so I feel better. You can't measure that. Say you're going to work out 6 days a week for an hour. I don't care what it is, but put it down to be clear. If you say that you're going to have these staff meetings and they're going to be well structured and that your staff are going to have voice in it, have well structured staff meetings with voice from your teachers. You say, well, I don't know how to get their voice in there. Right. Set the goal, figure out the how. That's what you do. You're a visionary leader. You're a movement maker. That's what we do. So you're going to set very clear goals. And you're not going to back down from it. You're not going to say, well, I'm not sure I can do that, because that's not what we do as movement makers. Go back to the very beginning. Number 1. Write down your goals. Do you have written goals? Mine are right here. They're actually on Post-it notes right now, but I'll write them down in my journal, and I'll write them every single day. I'm going to write them down so they're very clear. You're going to write down your goals, and that does not mean put them into a computer. Can I just say that? Like, there's enough research that says you need to write them down. I won't even use my iPad and my Apple Pencil for this. When it comes to goals, I actually physically write them with a pen so that my brain can be a part of the process of writing them down. Write down your goals, make plans to achieve them, and 3, work on your plans every single day. If you do that, you will be a part of the many, many folks that have followed Brian Tracy to say, this work did amazing things. In fact, he says many university graduates have told me that this simple concept has been more valuable to them than 4 years of study. Why? Because it gets things done. You know that. You get things done. When you get things done, you learn more. You get better at things. So set your goals, if you haven't already, and write them down. Write them down every day. Write them down so they're clear. Tell somebody. If you need to tell me, you can put them in the comments or you can email me. Like, tell me. I'll hold you accountable. I'll send you a text that says, here's your goals. How are you doing? We'll do it once a quarter or once a month, whatever you want. Come into the community. That'll be great. Come to the community. Tell us your goals. We're going to help you achieve those goals. But you need people around you that believe in this huge goal that you have. Can I tell you that I left one of the communities that I was in? Right? So I'm trying to learn about how to do online communities. I left this online community because I told people my goals and they didn't believe me. That's not the right place to be. I need to be in a place where I say 1,000 members in 1 year and they say, yeah, let's do it. Like, let's make this happen, because that's the change that we want to see in the world. And you're a movement maker and you want to see change. So write down your goals, create a plan, and get to work. As you do that, you will see change come about in your school, in your district, in your community. The world needs more movement makers just like you. So go out and start your movement.